Welcome back to Wealthy Mentor Trading, everyone. Today is November the 14th, 2021. Today, I'm going to be looking at 7 stocks I remain bullish on. I'm also going to be taking a look at the S&P 500 and how we performed last week and some targets going into next week. Now, I have 7 names, as I mentioned: Tesla, AMD, Nvidia is reporting earnings on Wednesday. Netflix had a nice bounce. Riot, huge 30% move, along with Dash and RBLX also gaining 30+%. But before we get started, guys, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't been already subscribed to the channel. And if you are interested in trading with us at Wealthy Mentor Trading, hit the link in the description where we do have a promo right now, a winter promo, 2 months to our Discord channel for 99 bucks. You can't beat that. You get access to our swing trading names, day trading names, option callouts, analyst upgrades, and the whole 9 yards. It's a wonderful membership to be a part of, and we do have that on sale right now. With that being said, I do have the S&P chart 500 open here, and as you guys can see here, we did open the week around that all-time highs, 47.18, and we did have a down week, right? We did trend most of the week sideways. We came down to test 46.30 support, and that coincided with the week prior, right? We had last week on Wednesday and Tuesday and Thursday, we were at a standstill right here waiting for the Fed decision, right? And that Fed decision propelled us all the way to that 47.18 mark. Now, this week, we did have a down week, as I mentioned. We came back down to test that area where that Fed decision news came out, right? We hit that and we bounced off it from strength and we moved higher, closing Friday's session just above that 46.80 mark. Now, overall, I am still bullish on the markets. However, I do want to see a break above that $4,700 mark for potential retest at that 47.20 all-time highs and another take profit target at that 47.30. Overall, if we can hold 46.80, that would be pretty bullish. Now, if we do drop below that, 46.50 is an area where we did consolidate, right? So if we do see some weakness, we can drop down to there. Now, if we do break that, 46.30 is another area of support. As you guys know, we did bounce off that on Wednesday. Now, overall, the S&P 500 was strong, but we did get a pullback from the semiconductor sector and tech sector. So going into next week, look at those two sectors to see if we could proceed higher, right? We did receive a healthy pullback from the semiconductor sector, mostly in part to do by Nvidia and AMD and Micron all pushing higher. So last week, we did receive a tiny pullback, a nice small correction. So this week, look for S&P 500 to break above that $4,700 mark and to continue our bullish march into the Christmas months. Okay, that being said, the first name on the list I have is Tesla, TSLA. And as you guys know, Tesla is always in the news. And recently, Elon Musk is again on Twitter, you know, wanting to sell more of his shares. Now, he's not completely done selling his shares. And as you guys can see here, on Monday, we were pretty bullish at that $1,200 mark. We had multiple candle wicks right here representing buyer rejection, right? Finally pushed down. And overall right here, we did have a huge sell-off when he did sell a portion of his shares, dropping us down to that 1020 mark. Overall, we did see continued weakness. We did have a nice bounce here just below that $1,000 mark. So that $1,000 mark has held now twice. So we did receive a nice sizable bounce all the way to that 1120 resistance. Now, overall, he continued to sell his shares. So obviously, we're going to see some weakness. And here we are on Friday, closing just at that 1020 mark. Now, going into next week, what am I looking at? On the bullish side, I do want to see 1050 break, but overall, I do want to see entries above that 1080 mark as we did consolidate here, unable to break that area. Multiple candles right here, no strength, basically all sellers pushing the price down, basically Elon Musk himself, right? So going into next week, 1080 is that area for me. Now, if we do break that, I do see us testing that $1,100 mark, and we also can push higher to that 1120 mark, where during pre-market we did hit that, but as soon as the market opened, that's where the selling proceeded. So, you know, If 1080 breaks, 1100 and 1120 are my targets to the upside. Now, if we do break past that, we could potentially go all the way to 1150, where it was this big breakdown candle with the selling pressure of Elon Musk. So 1150 is my highest target going into next week. Now, to the downside, let's just say we have continued selling pressure. Where do we see ourselves going, right? We do have that 1020 support line. If that does break, we could potentially test that $1,000 line once again. So on the break of 1020, look for $1,000 as a short position. Now, if $1,000 breaks, this is where it can get interesting. We do have that gap fill at that 950 mark, right? So a lot of people have that sentiment that we are going to break lower to that 950 mark. And that was the case down here. They thought we were going to break down on Wednesday, and the stock reversed and pushed up all the way to 1120. So here we are in that scenario once again. So I am looking to see if that $1,000 price point holds. Now, the theory is the more times you test a support line, the weaker it gets, and we do break down. So keep that in mind. If we do hit 1,000 once more, look to see if how the buyers react around that area. If we receive a big bounce, that should tell you that buyers are stepping in once again. If we don't receive a bounce at that $1,000 mark and it trends around there, most likely we will head to that 950, 930 area where we do have that gap fill, as I mentioned. Overall, I am still bullish on Tesla as long as we can get past that first barrier of 1050 and my entry point above 1080. All right, guys. So that is my overview on Tesla going into next week. Hang in there, guys. The next name, AMD. AMD was one of those names that did trend sideways for most of the week. Like I said, the semiconductor sector did pull back, so AMD obviously is going to get affected by that. Going into next week, I am watching above that 150 line, right? And we do have all-time highs at that 155.65 area. So a break above 150, I am looking for a retest of all-time highs around that 155 area. And if we do break that, I am looking at targets at that 160 line for my second take profit, as I am going to draw right here. Okay, so a break above 150, 155 is your target number one, and your target number two is that 160 line going into next week. Now, we also do have Nvidia earnings, so look to see if Nvidia does strong on their earnings call, and if they do, look for AMD to also correlate to that and push higher. Now, to the downside, we did hold that 139.50 area, which was key support, which was also the breakout area right here the week prior. So we came back down to retest this area. Buyers stepped in and held it, right? And that's healthy. And it pushed us all the way up just underneath that 150 line. So I am still bullish on AMD overall, but look to see what Nvidia does on their earnings to see if we can correlate. And also look for SMH, which is your leading indicator, to see if you should enter above that 150 line. Okay, so that is my thoughts on AMD. The next name, as I just mentioned, Nvidia, NVDA. They are reporting earnings on Wednesday, and we did receive an analyst downgrade from Wedbush, basically citing that their stock has rallied way too much, but is overall still bullish. Now, this could be a tactic by analysts just to get in cheaper, right? Drive the price down to a point where they can pop into there and, pick up shares for a cheaper price. And then obviously on earnings, push the price all the way up higher. So going into next week, I am looking above that 314 area, as we did consolidate underneath that quite a bit ever since November the 4th. So that is a line for me to enter just for a safer entry for potential retest of 320 and all-time highs here at that 327 mark. Overall, I am still bullish on Nvidia. SMH is still pushing higher and it's still holding strong. So your key thing to look at going into next week is that SMH sector, and also look to see what the other chip stocks are doing, like Micron and AMD, right? So that should give you a gauge of where the market is heading in terms of the semiconductors, right? So above 314 is an area for me. Now to the downside, that 294 area is a key support line. It held right here on November the 5th. And we did have some price action here all throughout last week where it did hold that 294 area. We did wick down momentarily where buyers stepped in. These long wicks right here show that buyers are in control, pushing the stock back above that 294 area where they are guarding that line. Now, if we do bomb on earnings, I am looking below that 294 area for potential shorts to 286 and the breakout area of 270 if we do see some weakness. But as I mentioned, I am bullish on Nvidia, and we do have analyst upgrades past that 340 mark. So keep your eyes going forward. Wednesday is the earnings after the bell. Another name, Netflix. Netflix is one of those names that also saw some weakness, and here we are on the 30-minute chart. As you guys can see here, we did drop last week to that 640 support line before bouncing back up and having a strong Thursday and Friday just above that 680 resistance. Now, we do have all-time highs here at that 692 area, so I am watching for a break above that for a blue sky breakout. Overall, Netflix has been trending, especially with their Squid Games doing so well, and Netflix recently is deciding to expand its Japanese beyond the anime library. So that is also bullish for the stock. So definitely look above that 691, 692 area for potential targets I have here for us at Wealthy Mentor Trading of $700 and a second bullish target of 710. Now to the downside, I am again looking at that 640 line. If we do hold that 649, if we do not hold that 649 line, look for 630, 625, and 620 as key support levels going into next week. But as I mentioned, we are trending around all-time highs, guys, so look for that break above 692 and push higher. Another name moving along, and this one is one of our swing trading names at Wealthy Mentor Trading. It's called Riot, R-I-O-T, and Riot Blockchain. This is one of those names that was closely correlated to Mara, which is another mining stock for Bitcoin. So, as you guys know, Mara has had some bullish price action popping above that $80 mark, right? Mara and Riot used to trade side by side, basically identical price action, and Riot now is the laggard to that, right? And we did have an amazing week pushing up 30%. As you guys can see here, we were just below that 35.50 resistance line. We popped back up above that $40 line, and I did tell group members that watch out above that $41 line, because as here I am going to switch over to daily mark. You guys can see here on a daily time frame, we've been stuck into this channel ever since April, May, unable to break that $41 area. So we finally broke past that on Thursday and Friday with strong, convincing volume, guys. Like as I mentioned, we were up 30% on the week, and that's nothing to sneeze at, right? That's a big percentage gain. Going into next week, I am looking for a continued move above that $45 line for potential retests of 48.5 and $54 as your second take profit target. As I mentioned, this stock was trending with Mara, and now Mara's at 80 bucks. So, we do have all-time highs here at that $79 mark. So if we do see continued movement, price action, bull action from Riot, look for it to also hit that all-time highs mark at that $80 area. So I definitely want to keep you guys apprised of this, and it is one of those names that is trending higher. So keep this name in mind. Now to the downside, I do want to see us hold that $40 mark. We could potentially wick down here, right? Touch $40 and proceed higher. And if we do hit $40 and we do not go higher, I can see us going back down to that 35.50 area for a potential bounce at those levels, right? So, but overall, I am bullish on Riot, and I haven't seen this type of price action ever since we hit those all-time highs area back on March and February. So, an exciting time, guys. So I can definitely see Riot be pushed higher going into the Christmas months. Okay, another name, Dash, D-A-S-H. And Dash finished the week 30%. As you guys can see here on the daily time frame, we do have all-time highs at 256. Big, strong move here, approaching all-time highs. We did, as I mentioned, push 30% higher, and mostly that was due to its strong earnings, Q3 earnings. It was stronger than expected. So on a technical standpoint, switching over to the 1 hour time frame, I do have entries above that 255.55 area. So above that, I am looking at targets at 260, right? And 270 psychological resistance. So overall, if we can pass above that 255 line, I see us, on a blue sky breakout to hit those next two targets of 260 and 270. Now to the downside, we could potentially drop all the way down here, which was a top wick, right, of this candlestick right here back on November the 9th. So that is key support. So 240 is an area of support for me. So potentially tomorrow we could test that 240 line area, then proceed higher. Now, if we do break below 240, I could see us potentially testing that 226 line where we did consolidate and then move higher. Overall, I am bullish on Dash, guys. Definitely watch over that 255 line. Okay. One last name that I want to look at, and I am bullish on this name as well, and it is part of our swing trading IPO growth stocks, and that's RBLX. RBLX, much like Dash, is approaching all-time highs. I am going to switch over here to the daily time frame. And as you guys can see here, we do have all-time highs at that 110 mark. We were rejected there back on the 9th, and we did have a strong bounce over here on Friday, about to test that 110 mark once again. Now, overall, if we can break above 110, we are in a blue sky breakout. I have targets of 115 and 120. 120 is a point where options traders are buying calls, those 120 calls going into the end of the year, and they are bullish on that. So I'm definitely looking for a break above 110 for a 115 and 120 target hit. Most of Dash's moves being up 40% was due to their Q3 earnings. And, I am bullish on this name. It's one of those new IPOs, and it is breaking out. And one thing I've learned about IPOs is that these things can move a heck of a lot higher, especially with, buyers being really bullish on new names, not understanding where they could go. So names like this can potentially go to 200. You never know, right? But I am looking at that 110 mark for a potential hit of 115 and 120, and then you can reevaluate after that. Now, to the downside, we do have support at that 104, 102 area. Now, that coincides with this top right here back on June. So I am looking at that as key support for a bounce. Now, if we cannot bounce at that 102, 104 area, look for shorts down to 98 and 94. And obviously, we have this gap fill left on the earnings beat at that 83.50 area. Now, I don't anticipate us going back down here, but if we do see market weakness, look for names like RBLX to push back down. Okay, guys? So those are 7 stocks that I remain bullish on going into next week. Overall, I do feel that the S&P 500 is going to break above that $4,700 line. So it's an exciting week going in. So just to give you guys a recap, Tesla unable to break 1,200 bucks. Elon has continued to sell. Watch above 1080 and watch for that gap fill around that $950, $900 mark. AMD, watch above that 150 area. Look for Nvidia to also have a strong earnings on Wednesday to propel AMD higher. And as I mentioned with Nvidia earnings on Wednesday, it was downgraded by an analyst. Don't look too much into that. They do want to buy in. So look for that 314 area as your entry point. Netflix held that 640 support line, and it is moving higher. Watch above that 692 as your entry. And Riot, Dash, and RBLX all gaining 30-40% on the week. Look for a move continued higher, especially with Riot. As I mentioned, it is closely correlated to Mara and Bitcoin's price action. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I just want to give you a huge thanks for everyone that tuned in to the last video. We had the most amount of views and watch time on YouTube, and it's just a wonderful experience to help out everybody else and to also grow the channel. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for continuing to watch, and please hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, guys, thank you so much, and good luck trading into next week.